Operations on numbers. We can perform various operations on numbers. For example, we can perform operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and etc. Now let's start with addition. Addition. For instance, when we add the numbers a and b, we get the number c. Here, a and b are the addends and c is called the sum. For example, when we add 5 and 4, we get the result of 9, and here 5 and 4 are called the addends and 9 is called the sum. If we are asked what the addends or the sum are, we should know that a and b are the addends and c is called the sum. Secondly, we can look at the subtraction operation. Subtraction. For instance, when we subtract b from a, we get the number c. In this case, a is called the minuend, b is called the subtrahend, and c is called the difference. For example, when we subtract 4 from 9, we get the result of 5, and here 9 is the minuend, 4 is the subtrahend, and 5 is the difference. Thirdly, we will look at the division operation. For example, when we divide a by b, the result is c, and here a is called dividend, b is called the divisor, and c is called the quotient. For instance, 6 divided by 3 equals 2. Here 6 is the dividend, 3 is the divisor, and 2 is the quotient. Next, we will look at the multiplication operation. Multiplication. For example, when we multiply the number a by b, we get the number c. Here, a and b are called the factors, and c is called the product. For example, 5 multiplied by 3 equals 15. Here, 5 and 3 are called the factors, and 15 is called the product. Now, let's talk about our fifth operation, which is exponentiation. Okay. For example, we can raise the number a to the nth power. This means multiplying a by itself n times. Okay. For instance, we can write 3 raised to the power of 10 as 3 multiplied by 3 times 3 times 3 and so on 10 times. However, to write it more concisely, we can express it as 3 to the power of 10. Or for example, 2 to the power of 5 equals 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 which means multiplying 2 by itself 5 times, but we can write it in a shorter form as 2 to the power of 5. And that concludes our discussion on exponentiation.